In this video, I'm going to talk about setting up an Amazon Web Services server and then installing Node-RED on that server. And that will allow an IoT device to connect to Node-RED from any network, which is an advantage over just running Node-RED on a local machine that you essentially have to be running either in the same local network or you have to set up a DNS server. So to get started, let's take a look at Node-RED's website here. We see that they have a tutorial on setting up an Amazon Web Services server. There's essentially two tutorials here. The first one is called Running on Amazon Web Services EBS Elastic Beanstalk. I found that one not very helpful. So skip to the second way of doing this, which is running on Amazon Web Services EC2 with Ubuntu. That's essentially what I'll be following here. So to get started, you'll need to create an Amazon Web Services account. They will ask you for your personal information, also a credit card number. But don't worry, as long as you're careful, you won't have to spend any money on anything. So, create your account. You'll be presented with this dashboard. This basically lists all the services that are available to you through Amazon Web Services. There's a lot here, but the only thing that we're interested in is EC2 under compute. So this is where you set up virtual servers. So we'll go in here, and I already have a server running, but let's pretend that I don't. So let's launch an instance. This will be the server that you're going to run your Node-RED on. We will choose just a basic Ubuntu server, so select that. Assuming you want to do this for free, just use the free tier eligible server. Go to next. This page can be left the same. Next, still the same. Yeah, you don't change anything here. However, in the security group settings, you'll need to enter in your IP address here next to SSH TCP port range 22. This will allow you to SSH into the server you're creating and install Node-RED, do whatever else you need to do on the server. So entering your IP here gives you access to that. By default, Amazon Web Services will reject any traffic from other IPs. So this is an important step, otherwise you will not be able to get this to work. So review and launch. Looks good, so we'll click launch. And this part is important. We will need to create a new key pair. This is for SSH. To keep it, it'll be essentially the SSH key that's used to authenticate your machine when you connect to the server. So create a key name. Let's call it key1, maybe. Sounds good. Download the key pair. Save this file somewhere safe. Okay. I'll just put this here. I'll make it a folder. What the heck? So you've got the key1 file saved. You'll use that later. So okay, now launch instances. All right, it's been a little bit. The server should now be up and running back at the dashboard here. So let's click on EC2. Go to that page. Now you can see that there's running instances. Now let's go over to instances on the left just to have a look. Okay, and here we can see we have our server running here. So that's well and good. Now we need to actually access it and install Node-RED. So to do this, we're going to use a program called PuTTY. It's just a free terminal program. You can download on the internet. There's tons of information about it if you need to know more. So first we need to use PuTTYgen, and this will take that key that we saved earlier and put it into a format that can be used by PuTTY. So let's load in that folder that we had saved the key1 file in. Now the key1 file has just a different extension, so we'll need to change that to all files. All right, open it up, click OK. Now we just need to save private key. And you don't need to password protect it. You could if you wanted, but it's not entirely necessary. I'll just call this key1 PuTTY. Save that in the default file format, and then open up your PuTTY terminal. So here we go. Here's PuTTY. Here in your instances, you're going to need to enter the the public IP address of your server. All right, so just copy that from your running instance there. Put that in the session here. We're just going to put that into the host and port 22 set on SSH. And we need to set it up to use that key that we just saved. So on the left here, expand SSH and then click on auth. Now we need to browse for that. We'll just go to that PuTTY key that we just saved, and that should be it. Let's try open, and it'll maybe complain about some insecurity here, but click yes. All right, now the default login for the server is Ubuntu, and no password. So you're logged in. Now we can essentially just I'm just copying and pasting commands here from the tutorial over here. Nothing fancy about that. So this will get our Node-RED set up. All right. Okay. All right. So you just see all these commands I'm entering. These last commands here you don't have to enter, but it can be handy. You can see, in this box here that I'm copying from now, this will start Node-RED whenever you restart your server, essentially your instance. And here's the last one. Okay, so now we got a server with Node-RED installed, so let's start it. So just type in node-red, and that will start Node-RED. And you can see, yes, that it has indeed started. So I believe the default port for Node-RED, as you can see here, is 1880. So don't use this IP, ignore this IP, the local IP that's being used by the server. Um, to, to actually get on Node-RED, we'll have to go back to our Amazon instances panel here. Now, before we can actually get onto Node-RED, get onto that port, we have to make another security hole for ourselves to gain access to the port that Node-RED is running on. So we go down to network and security here, security groups. Now this is essentially where you manage all the access to servers. So you got to be kind of careful when changing settings here. So we'll go into inbound. These are alt for communications to the server. By default, we only set up that one SSH port with strictly access only from this IP address. So we'll need to edit, and we'll need to add a rule. So it'll be a custom TCP rule. Now this will be the port that Node-RED is operating on, which is 1880 by default. Now source my IP again. So only going to be able to access Node-RED from this machine. And there's a security section on Node-RED's website where you can look more into security, but it's wise not to expose Node-RED to the internet without first taking some cautionary measures. So for the time being, definitely only allow access through one IP. Okay, so we're going to save that, and now should be able to get on our server. So let's go back to instances, and okay, we got this is our public IP. Let's just go over. Create a new tab. Okay, copy and paste our IP, colon 1880, the port that Node-RED is running on. Bam, there we go, we got it running. Okay, so it was that simple. One thing to note, if you don't want to pay for these services, you need to keep tabs on basically how long you're running these servers for. So if you're not using them, make sure you shut them off, otherwise you could potentially rack up some bills. So for instance, you can go to my billing dashboard, and you can see that yeah, I've left some servers running overnight a couple times when I've just absent-mindedly backed up a whopping 1 cent bill. So not too bad, but you can kind of keep track on how close you're getting to free usage limits here. Just something to keep in mind. All right.